So number 3, and this is pretty important. Patience. You gotta be patient. So it is normal for people to get angry. It is normal for people to be frustrated and overwhelmed. And in these situations, when you're the dealer and your customer gets really mad and starts like throwing cards at you and cursing at you, you're gonna need patience. And patience is wonderful and it's a virtue. And you really, really, really do need it. Now, what happens if you're not naturally a patient person? What do you do? So as soon as you realize that things are like getting heated and you're starting to like lose your cool, the first thing I want you to do is take a few breaths and count down from 10. Now, what this does is it gives you enough time for the rational portion of your brain to kick in instead of reacting purely on that fight and flight response. Try not to lose your temper. Try to remain calm, composed. And another thing to keep in mind is human beings naturally tend to mirror one another. So if you're level-headed and patient, the player will eventually mirror your behavior and become level-headed and patient as well. Also too, sincerely listen to what the player is saying and try to like figure out what they want. Try to attempt to understand what their problem is, try to see it from their perspective, offer a degree of sympathy. By doing this, by listening to them and offering them this degree of sympathy, most of the time disgruntled players will usually calm down and they'll feel heard and they'll feel like, you know, you actually care. And this will temper the temper tantrum that they're having. I can't think of a better word for it.
They're not here right now. You can say what it is. It is a temper tantrum. Okay. Oh, you have more for patience?
Nope. Go for it.
All right. It's response time. Okay. So first of all, I love the way that you just laid that out. That's valuable to anybody in many different job environments. In poker, so the first thing I want to say is I have been overwhelmed in a craps table as a dealer. Okay. And I will say that it is my belief that it's harder to deal that game than anything else. And when I think about needing to take a breath, that's where my mind goes to. Mm-hmm. As a poker dealer, it can be stressful as well, especially if you get like a 4 or 5 all in, $20,000 each person hand, and you're not used to dealing that. But for the most part, poker is a little bit less intense than a game like craps, in my opinion. At the same time, it's also very hard when you're new, right? So what do I want to say about that? I don't know if you have time to sit and take a deep breath and count to 10 with everybody waiting for you. I'm not really
Okay, how about 5? Count to 5.
Yeah, something. But that advice is fantastic. And I've never actually heard that before. But poker dealers definitely get frustrated, overwhelmed. They get insulted. Dealers have a tendency to be insulted, which is where that anger comes from sometimes. And I know that that's true for table games too sometimes. But I think it's pretty solid advice for both. And when you said listen, sincerely listen, that's interesting. I think that for poker, it's more of a supervisor role that you just described. Because a dealer with anything, anything happens for a dealer in poker, they call the floor. Now, I know table games calls the floor too, but there's just a different dynamic with players playing against each other. They're playing against the dealer in table games, so the dealer has to sort of navigate some more of these situations. The floor calls are usually monetary floor calls.
And with blackjack and everything, you sort of have to deal with a little more shit before you call the floor supervisor over, right. And they expect you to take care of it. So it's only when you can't take care of it do you call the floor supervisor over.
Yeah, absolutely. And in poker, they don't really want, because confrontation on poker, a lot of the time it spreads and it's a confrontational game. Like the players at a poker table are actually trying to beat each other. At table games, everyone's working together to beat the dealer, sort of, and it's just this different dynamic. So you don't want anything to go to escalate. We actually teach in poker for the dealer to never argue or disagree, is what I should be saying, or resist. If you just get any resistance from a player, you just get a floor there, and they're the ones that handle that.